Why are some of the most successful, disciplined, and high performing people quietly falling apart? And why is it not a mindset problem, but a nervous system issue? We are going to explore this thought process and more with our amazing guest, Dr. Ashley Alderette. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Our
No.
pleasure. Our pleasure. I'm going to start out by asking Ashley, listen, you often say this isn't a mindset problem, it's a regulation problem for some of our listening audience who feels kind of stuck, overwhelmed, or inconsistent. What does that actually mean in real life?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So for if you're in a good state, regulated state, then you're going to have a great mindset. But if you are feeling dysregulated or stressed, under pressure, then you're going to have a bad mind state, basically. So
No, I was going
Me
to say, does regulation or regulated state, is that a positive thing? And what does that feel like?
okay, okay. So you were Spencer, you were asking about mindset and what most people get wrong about mindset. So I'm here to say that mindset works, but it only works when your nervous system is regulated. So what is our nervous system? What does that mean? Um Basically our nervous system is built to keep us to survive and unfortunately not thrive in life. So it is always scanning our environment saying, am I safe? Is this dangerous or is this life threatening? And so when we are feeling safe, we can have a good mindset um, in the workplace or as an athlete. We may think like, okay, I've got this, I can do this. And if we are in a survival mind state or if we're stressed or under pressure, then we're going to be more likely to have negative thoughts such as like I can't do this or I need to give up. So my work includes people below the mindset and working on our state regulation, physiological state.
So, how does somebody regulate? I mean, it sounds easy, like a light switch, you could turn it on, but how do you regulate your mindset when you're freaking out, It's and well, go on, go on.
Yeah, yeah. So I always teach people that there's three steps to any type of behavior change. The first step is awareness. Am I aware that I am in this survival state versus my thriving state or flow state? So what does a survival state look like? That could be when we are feeling super overwhelmed and we're in freeze mode and we don't know where to start for if we're doing our work or I work with a lot of lawyers, so they are always go, 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 do, do, do. And on one hand, that actually can be helpful in the survival state, but then that's what leads to burnout if you're always going and you're never slowing yourself down to be more regulated and rested and relaxed.
Well, I'm actually fascinated. You work with a lot of lawyers. What does that mean? Are you talking about lawyers that get nervous in the courtroom and you're trying to help them regulate that? Or are you talking about helping them with cases?
Yeah, so good question. So I work with a lot of lawyers that are working like around the clock, like literally 24/7. They are answering emails till 2 a.m. They're working 12 hours on weekends, 7 days a week. And so my job is how to teach them the small little skills that they can add to their daily routine and habits and have a better system. So they're less burnt out, they can have more energy or time for their family as well as time for themselves. So that's a piece of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
What does that look like? So
Yeah.
if I'm a lawyer and I'm like, I have trials, I am going 24/7, my life is falling apart because I can see the same attitude with a fireman, first responder. I can see the same attitude with maybe an athlete that's traveling. I can see the same attitude with some teenager or college kid who's on their phone all night and has to get up and do a test. What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will say a lot of high performers are always in doing mode, basically. Like you're saying, the firemen, the athletes, the students. And so when we're always in doing mode and we're not ever shutting off our mind, basically, then it's gonna affect our health. So we can get physical health symptoms, mental health symptoms. I've had clients that are always like living in a survival state or always stressed out and anxious. And so, you know, um that's caused them to drop into depression, for example. Um, I'm trying to think of some other examples. Also for athletes, right? This is um a good one that I can think about, or sorry, for athletes, like practice, right? You may be great at practice, and then when you get to the game, you may freeze up. And so that's like
Right.
living in survival mode. And so you don't know what to do. So I teach athletes like how do you regulate your nervous system? For example, it could just be as simple as a couple deep breaths in the moment. It can be starting your morning off right because the way that we start our morning off primes our whole entire day. So, oh, go ahead.
No, no, no. What are some of your tips that how do you start your morning off? I mean, that's a great. I don't know how to sometimes start my morning. Now sometimes I just roll out of bed and I hit it. So and then I got my partner who gets up at dark 30 and does a run on the beach. So how do you start your day off right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So, I'll tell you what you should not do to start your day off is go and look at your phone. Because whenever you look at your phone and you've got all these urgent emails, text messages, you are already waking up in a stressed state. And then think about it. When you wake up in that stress state, how is that going to affect your mood, the way that you think about things, the way that you behave? You know, maybe you're going into work, and then are you going to take that stress out on somebody else? Or um, you have a big meeting that morning, and then it's a high stakes meeting, and there's a lot of pressure. You're not going to do as well if you're walking in already stressed from the morning. Versus if you wake up, you take some deep breaths, you move your body, and get the basically moves the stress and cortisol out of our body in the morning, as well as taking a walk outside and getting sunlight in your eyes for 10 minutes is helpful. And then that's going to allow you to show up at the workplace or your sports or school in in a different state of mind. So you're going to be thinking differently. You may say, okay, you may go into that meeting and you may do great at the presentation and get that sale. You may go into your test if you're a student and ace that test. Um, so those are some examples of how your morning can really affect the rest of your day.
But those that have that first cup of coffee that they need, not me, but I used to do that. I mean, that can sometimes, well, you have to wonder if why do you need that cup of coffee and or does that produce anxiety?
Yes. So the research would say that it does because we're already waking up in this stressed state. And so then we're drinking caffeine and that's going to increase our cortisol levels. Versus if you wake up, you have a little bit of a slower morning, eat some food. They say 30 to 40 grams of protein to really fuel your body for the rest of the day and then have some coffee.
And then have coffee. Right,
If you
there you
like,
go.
I'm not gonna tell you
Yeah.
not to, but
No, 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 I'm with you. I'm with you on that. That sounds but yeah, most people that don't even sleep well, that they wake up and they're already lethargic and how they're looking to deal with the day when they're already low energy.
well,
So, is there sleep suggestions that you have for people as well?
yeah, so it's actually kind of like a vicious cycle because what the research shows is that if you are going all day and your nervous system is dysregulated and you're stressed and you're anxious and you're irritable, then it is going to affect your sleep. And so you're not going to get as good a sleep. You may be waking up in the middle of the night, or maybe you have difficulty falling asleep because your mind keeps going and thinking about all the what ifs, the worries, or how you could have done things better, or your to do list the next day. So I recommend having a good wind down routine that, again, doesn't have any electronics involved. Um, Meditation, again, the deep breath is really helpful. Um, so things along those
Wait,
lines.
did I hear you say wine to
No,
go?
no, she said wind down. I thought she
Oh,
said have a wine.
yeah,
I swear.
I thought, okay, at night have wine, so and then have my coffee in the morning. I'm fucking good.
No.
I swear I thought that too. I go, she said wine? No, wind down. Down a wine. There you go.
I'm just teaching
Right.
all the great health things here, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you
Coffee, wine.
Floridians. Us Californians are like, all right, wine at night and coffee in the morning. I'm good.
There it is. There it is. Oh, all right. So you
Yeah.
got, again, it sounds great when you say it, but I am certain that you have these clients that come in or patients that they just can't turn that off. And you got to do a deep dive in helping them. What are, think of someone difficult that, they're just, their identity is tied to the anxiety and the stress. How do you shift that consciousness?
So I will Well, I will say that I work with a lot of very smart people, and so what I see a lot of times is that we are a lot of people are stuck in our minds, in our heads, and so we're always thinking with our thoughts, and so that's hard to shut off. So what I say is if you're overthinking, then you're under feeling. So what I would do with my clients is teach them, hey, instead of thinking about all these what ifs, how can I do better? I'm behind. I need to work harder, faster, things like that. Let's just tune into our body. What body sensation do you notice? And what is it that you need based on that body sensation? For example, if my client says I have I notice tension, tightness in my chest, shallow breathing, I'd say, okay, let's slow down. Let's orient ourselves just to the room. So really just kind of feeling your feet on the ground, and then looking around the room for something pleasant to land your eyes on. And then just taking a couple slow, deep breaths can really be helpful for people. So,
So
So you
I
get
got
them.
yeah,
Yeah,
go
go ahead.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
I got another one on the flip side of that. I mean, I want to come back to this, but on the flip side of that, you have these people that are almost depressed. You said get away from the phone, but they can be happy, and then they get on the phone, especially some women, some guys, and they see this negative thing about them, and they go into a state of depression. And now they can't get up. Is that the same type of thing as the anxiety? I mean, you get these people that get stuck in this anxiety loop and this depression loop. What's your
yeah.
thoughts on that?
Yeah. It's a little different. The types of dysregulation are going to be fight or flight. So that's where the anxiety comes in. That's where the irritability comes in, maybe like lashing out at your partner. Um, but that can also be helpful again for the go 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 culture and hustle culture. Then you've got the freeze state. So that freeze state is like you're super overwhelmed and you just don't know what to do. And this looks like you're redoing your to-do list over and over again. You're not actually getting work done. Maybe you're busy but not productive, basically. Um, and then what you're talking about, Dr. Terry, is the shutdown mode. So that's like whenever you're depressed and you don't want to get out of bed. Um, so that can definitely be a tough situation. And that's definitely where a lot of the clients come to see me as well. And I really like to I teach a skill called opposite action. And so basically that is when you're depressed, you want to lay in bed. And thinking about how can we break down the next action into a small, tiny goal to get out of bed, for example. So maybe I have to go to work. And I'm depressed. Let's not even think about going to work. Let's just think about getting out of bed and putting our feet on the floor. And then let's think about getting to the bathroom and brushing our teeth. And so breaking those things down into more small, tolerable steps can help people get out of that depression mode. Now, here's the thing. People go into that shutdown mode, but in order to get to the safety mode, or like the flow state, a lot of business people call it, where we can connect and be excited and happy and passionate about life, you have to go through that fight or flight mode. So what I see with a lot of my clients is I get them out of that depression mode, but then they're like, oh my gosh, Ashley, like I'm not the type of person that lashes out at my partner. And last night I just like lashed out at my partner. So I like to validate, like, it's okay. That's you coming out of the shutdown mode, or the freeze mode. And now let's work on communication skills so that when you're in that state, fight or flight, you can have a more effective conversation with your partner. And then people go to the safety or flow state. So then you can connect, you can excel at work, um you can make more clear decisions, better, and just have a better mindset all around.
What do you what are you telling them I love the idea of that focus on the moment. I'm putting my feet, taking my feet off the bed onto the floor. I'm walking to the bathroom to go pee or do whatever you need to do next. But I like how you break it down and try to shift them away from the turmoil. But when you said that they move to the next phase, and they're panicked and having anxiousness and telling, snapping at their partner or employees or whoever it is, what are you telling them to tell themselves or to catch that? Because sometimes they get this like neural hijacking where they just, what do you say to curb that instant moment?
Yeah, definitely. So, well, first of all, I like to validate people that fight, flight, freeze, um, the shutdown, it's all a self-protective mechanism. So it makes sense that happens, first of all. And then second of all, just noticing in the moment, what are the warning signs that you're about to snap at somebody, and then we would want to intervene there. So, usually before you snap at somebody, for example, you might notice your face is getting flushed. You might notice like your hands are clenching. And so then how can we change our body position to have a more open body position, for example? How can I then I'll teach other skills. How can I take um like use the stop skill, stop in the moment and just take a couple deep breaths before I respond to somebody, for example.
Do you find that people are, well, obviously lack of sleep is a big driver to anxiety and losing control. Do you identify that first, and or what the cause of those moments of angst are are stemming from? Uh, Maybe drinking too much coffee, or I mean, you go through all those different. While you're trying to, you know, do a consult in history with them. What kind of questions are you asking?
Yeah. Um Let me think.
Don't be bagging on
Um
my coffee, by the way. God
All right,
damn it! Don't be bagging on my coffee.
but before you drop some amphetamine, how's that?
That's better. Thank you.
Yeah.
um Well, I think like in my consultations, I'm not seeing people come to me and saying, "Hey Ash, like I have a dysregulated nervous system, I need your help." It's more of like, "Hey Ash, I am I'm I'm noticing that I'm going out on the weekends and I'm binge drinking, or I'm wanting to step out of my marriage, or I'm wanting to, um, uh, or I'm just feeling exhausted and I don't want to do anything anymore. So those are kind of the reasons why people may come to me. Or actually, the sleep is people come to me because they can't sleep as well. And so then the questions I would ask are kind of what you were saying, Dr. Spencer. What does your sleep look like? Because as we know, that is the number one most important thing that we can do for ourselves. And I think they say like sleep is a silent killer because we don't notice it in the short term, but then in the long term, it creates all these mental and physical health problems. Short term as well, but long term too. Uh, oh, go ahead.
No, no, I want you to continue, but can you also elaborate what dysregulation actually means?
Yes. Dysregulation, basically, it means that we're living in a state of survival, which I also want to say it's helpful, it's important, and we need to be able to access those survival states. And we do it every single day. For example, if I am walking down a dark alley and I hear a noise, I need to be able to go into that fight or flight mode so I can fight somebody off. Or I'm trying to think of animals. This theory is based on animal behavior because Peter Levine wanted to know why do animals their lives are threatened every single day, but they don't have what we like traumas. They don't they just get up, they shake it off, and then they keep going. Or animals may play dead and freeze, and that's how they protect themselves. So all of these states are basically our survival states. Um, so what does it look like though? It looks like um, at work, maybe you have a lot of pressure at work. You're the the owner of the company, and so everybody's coming to you, and you've got to take care of all your employees. You've got to take care of your family, and then you don't have a place to really an outlet to take care of yourself. Maybe you're not getting sleep. Maybe you're not moving your body. You don't have anyone to talk to. And so you're not making decisions effectively. If you're not sleeping and fueling your body and eating right, then you're not going to be able to focus or um, make clear decisions.
How do you deal with someone who identity drives behavior? But how would you talk someone who has identified with a certain character, change that? I mean, they've been that way for so long, that they think that, that they should be better at this, or that they're terrible at this, or what. How do you get through that struggle?
Yeah, yeah. So I like to say this saying, which is if you can change your state, you can change your story, your narrative about life, and then you can change your identity. So basically, whatever state you're living in, that's going to affect who you believe that you are. For example, I know some people that have said like, I'm just a survivor in life. And I heard that, and honestly, I used to think that too, like I could survive anything. But then one day I was like, you know what? I was always working and like not really, I didn't have a good work life balance, for example. And I was like, you know what? I want to thrive in life. And so I heard about this work, and it helps you just to kind of feel more alive and experience more of life. And it did it did change my identity too. Instead of I'm a survivor, I'm well, I have a lot of a lot of beliefs, but like I'm living my best life basically. So an example may be if you're always living in pressure, you may say I'm just someone who's always busy. Um so that could be your identity. So how would I help someone with that? Well, I'm trying to think of a better example of like a core belief that is keeping people stuck.
core belief would could be someone who believes they're, let's say, let's take relationships for example, maybe that they're just not romantic enough, or they are so work oriented, and that's what's important, is making money or what have you. Is that, I mean, obviously for the, some of the attorneys are high achievers, or someone who is maybe a trial attorney that has always done well in life, or or that you know that generation that they get a trophy just for participating, so they think they're a winner, but then they lose a case, because now they're grown up and the real world says, all right, you screwed up, uh, your client is guilty. What? So how how do you help them through that struggle?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, okay. Well, you mentioned a lot, but how would I'll stick with the last one. So how would I, if the attorney has this core belief because they just lost a case, like I'm not good enough or not worthy, and that basically it would have to be, if it happened just one time, they probably wouldn't have that mindset. But if it happens multiple times and it's a repeated thing where they're losing, then that's going to form their identity. Like I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. And so we would first go back to the state that they're living in. Are they sleeping? Are they eating? Are they slowing down? And um like taking deep breaths is just a good one in general. So that's changing their state. And then once you change your state, then you can change your story. So the story is I'm not worthy. Once you're if when you're in a positive state, then you can have a more positive mindset. So we can shift that I'm not worthy mindset to I can lose a case and still be worthy. And then if when they're repeatedly taking care of their state and changing their narrative about how they see a loss, then that's going to become their identity over time. So it's who you are basically on a consistent, regular basis.
I heard something the other night, and you being in Florida, you may not hear this as much, but I heard this the other night, and it was from a owner of a company, and he was like, "We're still stuck in COVID," and I go, "What does that mean?" And he goes, we're now trying to get employees to come back to work, and we're getting such a huge pushback. They just want to stay home. They don't want to come back to work. They want to come in one day a month, and they've gotten stuck in this. They only want to work 20 hours, but they want to be paid as if they were making 80 hours a week. And then you hear the other side, and people got in this rut of, some call it lazy, some call it just a change of mindset. And how long does it take to get out of these habits? I mean, I think some of this COVID shutting people down was very detrimental to their health, mental as more than physical. How do we get, if I'm still hearing this 2 days ago from HR and this of companies going, nobody wants to work anymore. They just want to stay home. Have you seen that? And as a therapist, what's some advice you can give to both sides of the fence?
Man. Um, so I would say that that's a tough question. I always like to say in order to change a behavior, it takes, well, number one, it takes willingness to change a behavior. So I guess for the companies, it's what would be the consequences for people to come back. Um, and then okay, I'm not really sure how to answer that in a nervous system way.
But isn't it, all right? Let's just say some of these people got stuck in the pattern. You can look at it that way. So is it going to take the person that's at home and got used to being at home, and oh my gosh, I'm in this pattern, but I know it's not right, but it sounds easy. I think our bodies, like, always the default is the easy way out. And so how do we change their their pattern. I know this may not be your topic, but it was just something that came up
Yeah.
that I've been pondering in my head going, this is like becoming a big deal. And, from your intellectual standpoint, what's some thoughts you have on this? Because do we, we got into the pattern. How do we see ourselves getting out back into a healthier pattern?
Yeah. I would say in order to change somebody else's behavior, we would want to lean into reinforcement, positive and negative reinforcement. So what can what can the company provide? Like what incentives can they provide for people to come back into the office? Or positive incentives always work better than negative consequences, but that's another option as well. I've seen companies saying like if you don't come back, then you're just fired. Um, but I would say mindset in terms of like mindset, right? If you're in a fixed mindset, the employees and like I can't go back to work, for example. So they would want to, in order to get to a flexible mindset, you would want to basically kind of it all goes back to like the sleeping and the eating and the moving your body to get into a regulated state, and then you're going to be more open to going back to work. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I guess that's how you could tie it. Yeah.
I mean, you've got clients like the lawyers that go 24/7. And then you've got this people say nobody wants to work anymore. And I don't think that's true, but people from, either Dr. Spencer and I have had that conversation. I go, I feel like nobody wants to work anymore. And then you got the people that are working too much. That sounds like a nervous scene. It's almost like depression versus anxiety. I mean, so, do you believe that people don't are lazy and got lazy, or do you think they just have a different mindset that we're used to and we're trying to compare our lives with them?
Yeah. Well, I always like to say that lazy is a judgment. And what does then what does lazy even look like and mean? And then it would be like, why is it so important for that person to stay at home? Maybe uh it's a mom and she wants to be present for her kids and she's doing her work. So but honestly, are any of us gonna have to work soon with this AI stuff coming out? I'm feeling it.
Right?
Then the people who do like to work and live in the hustle culture, they're really in trouble.
Right. You brought that up. I mean, as a therapist who deals with this, how do you combat people going, "Well, I'm not going to come and see you. I'd rather just go to Chat GPT."
Yeah, so I think ChatGPT is a great it's as great as the knowledge that it has. And it doesn't always give you the correct facts, but I think it's a great like ancillary service. My clients, they may like look up some stuff and then bring it into therapy and we can process it. But as far as I know, ChatGPT or AI doesn't have a nervous system, and that is what heals people. My like calm nervous system, for example, is what can heal my clients who have a dysregulated nervous system chronically.
So you mean like being in your presence,
Yes.
they'll tend to follow your lead in being relaxed and more at ease. That's true too.
Yeah.
Um,
Which
Go
so
ahead, Terry.
that's
Oh, sorry.
oh, go
Mhm.
ahead.
Nope, you go.
So yeah, like the energies in the nervous system regulation, dysregulation, it is you can notice if you're with somebody and then all of a sudden if they're an anxious person, you start getting anxious. So we pick up on other people's nervous systems versus, Dr. Spencer, when I first talked to you on the phone, you had this great calming voice and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be a great call."
Thanks, thanks.
Yeah.
Eh, it depends on what time of the day we're talking. Oh, yeah.
Fair enough.
Well, thank you. The Yeah, that is true. I mean, and actually, it's only been recent that some friends of mine have discussed what it's like, or actually patients of mine have discussed what it's like removing certain people from their life because they finally realized that they're angst is carrying over into their world, and they have to lose them as a friend because it's not comforting. Do you ever suggest things like that? Is to take a look at the people around you because they may be influencing your behavior?
Absolutely. The people, your environment. I always tell clients, you know, check in with yourself. How do you feel when you hang out with that person? Like body sensation wise, how do you feel afterwards? Do you feel depleted? Do you feel energized? Um, those are all very important things because again, it does affect uh what's the word? It Yeah, it affects if we're hanging out with people that are always dysregulated, then it's going to affect the way that we think, we behave, um we relate to the world and ourselves.
Terry, you were gonna lead in with some social media toxicity.
Well, that's like my hot topic. I just
I
think
know.
there's so much toxic stuff. And I literally had a patient go, my dog was doing so good, and she had posted a picture of herself, and which I thought was beautiful. And then she gets this negative comment, and it
Yeah.
ruined her for the day. And he goes, and as a dad, I went, you don't even know this person. Why do you care? And so I'm seeing so much, you know, what 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 was your life as a therapist pre, or like your thoughts pre social media, and then how do you navigate that? Even as an adult, we don't like to get bad news, and now you got these keyboard warriors that are just like can stand behind their screen and just say you're an idiot, but they won't say it to your face, but how do you navigate that?
You know what? I think if you have haters, you're doing something right, and if you don't have haters, then you're
Yes.
probably not living your life.
I love that.
Nice.
That's how
Yeah.
you navigate that one. So, the best advice I got was, one of my mentors told me, he said, "Ashley, listen, you're great. You have a great energy about you, but guess what? You will not be everybody's cup of tea. And that's okay because the people who you are their cup of tea, those are going to be your ride or die people. So, the people that don't like you are just kind of weeding themselves out and it's their loss."
I
Mm.
love that.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And so then I question how social media identifies your algorithms. And can it really be all that bad if, for me, my ridiculous algorithms is either, about dogs or romance, positive romance or motivation, things like that. So, like, I'll go to bed and scroll a little bit, and I go to bed maybe, excited or happy or connected. It's those people that I guess scroll and thrive on drama and trauma, right? I mean, yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's why I
Yeah.
don't know if all social media is that bad. I mean, strike me with lightning for saying that, but, I don't know if
It's
that's
true. I mean, it's a source of knowledge and a source of despair.
It has its pros and cons, right? Because yeah, like there's so many things that you can learn if you're following the right things. And also it depends on your state. If you're going to social media, you're already in a positive mindset, in a positive state. You're going to basically you see the world differently depending on what state you're in. So you may see the same exact photo or message on Instagram, but if you're in your safety state versus a survival state, you're going to think about it differently. So maybe like, yeah, you see this relationship and then you're like, oh, that's so wonderful and beautiful and happy. And then you fall asleep versus let's say you're in like fight or flight mode and like you're like, God, I'm just so sick of seeing all these people that are happy together. And like if you're single, for example. So
right.
that's a piece of it.
Or
That's
you have
so
your
true.
spouse going, Johnny is nice to his wife, taking her to all these places. Why
Yes.
won't you do that to me?
Yes. So that's the big thing, the comparison, right? It's like when you go
Yeah.
on social media, it is a constant threat to our system for comparison. It's like, well, I'm not doing good enough in my career, or, I'm not as high status, or my body doesn't look as good as that person. And so I think it's about checking in with yourself and knowing how is how is my social media content helping me or not helping me? And then you could kind of go from there.
Gosh, what I was just thinking is that in the gym, in one of the gyms that I train at in the morning, there's on the big screen are they play old like MTV rapper videos, and all of them have like stacks of money, gold chains. But what people don't realize is that they'll rent the location, the mansion that they're filming out of, or they'll or rent the Rolls Royce that they're driving down. So it gives such a false image to the rest of the population. So it's not just social media, but it was back in the MTV days, probably before Ashley was born. But anyway, but back back in those days, I think it's when it started. So I'm trying to defend social media to some degree because I think that was
Yeah.
like, even on TV, regular TV, when we would watch things
Yeah.
like that. So, yes. So not all social media is toxic, I guess, but it can be. And we're hearing more about it now more than ever before. But hey, Ashley, let me ask you, let- let's let's take a particular patient that you could think of right now, or client, if you want to call it that, and maybe your most difficult one or challenging one. How do they come in, maybe give us a sketch of what they complained about, and how do you start taking them through this metamorphosis?
Yeah. Well, I think, I don't know why, but this one patient comes to mind and it kind of goes back to the identity piece. Um, you know, sh- she came to me because she was extremely anxious, always having panic attacks, and transitions were really hard for her. And through our work together, sh- I've taught her a lot of skills. She used to never take risks. She always used to stay in her little safety bubble. And throughout our time together, she actually, now that now that she has the skills, she actually ended up quitting her job. This is huge for her. She would have never thought this. She ended up quitting her job and starting her own company because of the work that we did with the nervous system and the identity piece. And basically, I like to tell people, like, you know, you if you want to step into a new identity, you have to first behave and kind of fake it till you make it, and give your nervous system a new experience, because your nervous system is going to keep you safe. It's not it's not built to help you thrive. So that's exactly what she did. She started taking all the behavioral steps, and now she finally has this identity, like, I'm someone who thrives in transitions and who thrives whenever things are uncertain, versus um her old identity, which is, I'm someone who cannot do change, who needs certainty and control. Um and
Okay, okay, but that's her. What did you say to her? What were some of the things that you would say to someone, or her? Let's take her for example.
yeah.
That because yeah, I mean that's hard. Most people don't realize to to morph into someone that they want to be when they've been one way for so long, or told by someone that they admired or cared for that they ain't shit, things like that.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
How do I help people? Um, oh man, so I think I there's a couple things. So the first thing is, it all really goes back to lifestyle. I first always work with my clients on lifestyle, because if you are showing up to the therapy sessions in a survival state, for example, we there's not a lot of work we can do. So, I like to train my clients to work on their sleep, at least move their body, at least at the beginning of the session. We may just orient ourselves to like, going back to our feet on the ground, landing on a pleasant um item in our room or outside or whatever it may be. So the first thing we would do in a session is make sure that we are starting it from a regulated, safe state, so that they can connect, so that we can connect. basically. Does that make sense? That's
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
the first piece.
So you build the ground floor by the little things that how they present. What if someone's late to your session chronically and they go, "Oh, yeah," and they give you some excuse?
Yeah, that definitely happens, and I would wanna think is and ask, like, I wonder, is this a problem that happens outside of our sessions? And usually it is. And they'll probably come to that session and they'll, they'll, they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry," and like all frantic and stuff. So what I first do again is we got to get into that safety state. So, okay, you know what? It's okay. Let's just take a couple deep breaths and then get ourselves regulated, and then we'll talk through what's really going on. And typically, if they're always go 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 and they're late, we'll talk about what that feels like, how it is for them. Do they want to change that? And it usually they do. It's not too pleasant. Um, being in that state, but sometimes there's benefits too, right? We live in a fast-paced society and we have to just squeeze everything in. But teaching people how to slow down is a big piece. And a lot of times, if you're living in this chronic state of go, 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 it doesn't feel safe to slow down. So when we try to slow down, we feel guilty. We it's hard to rest. So we would have to explore, where is that coming from? That that and decouple the idea that slowing down means that you're not safe.
Yeah, that's why I've heard friends or patients of mine that they'll go on vacation in, some quiet neck of the woods. And man, it takes like a couple days to get used to moving out of being out of the city and the fast pace. And it takes a while to dysregulate, I guess, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
to regulate to a more calming environment because they're just not used to that. All right, I got to find out. So the lady that because it's so easy to say, I'm going to quit my job. Well, no, it's not easy. It's easy to say it. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to start my own company. What in the world and obviously it's not one session that you're going to tell someone and then they're going to be attracted to doing all this at once. How did you coach her to do that?
So I like to say it's kind of like going to the gym. And this is what I like to tell clients too, because you're right. You're not going to be healed in one session. These patterns didn't occur in
Mm,
one
yeah,
overnight. So
yeah.
we can't change everything in one night. So basically, when you go to the gym, you do your reps and, you may go for a day or a week and you don't see any muscle definition or any change. So it can be hard. But then, like 3 months after going to the gym and you're doing all the reps and you're showing up consistently, then one day somebody may say, "Hey, Ash, your arms are looking pretty strong there. Have you been working out?" And I'm like, heck yeah, I've been working out. Thanks. And that's the same thing with the nervous system regulation. You have to do the neural reps and build basically habits. It comes down to your daily habits. So every day, for example, this girl, she did 3 deep breaths when she woke up and she started exercise. She also started moving her body and exercising most mornings. And just those 2 things, and then she was also mindful of her um sleep and eating as well, but, um, those things then helped her be able to reduce her anxiety baseline, so she wasn't always in a chronic state of anxiety, and when she did go into that state, she had the skills to bring herself back down to baseline and, feel safe in uncertainty or scary situations.
In actuality, I think what you also did was allow her to realize that little successes along the way and build on that and see, you're doing this. See, you're good. Like taking baby steps to the big step of
Yeah.
quitting and starting your own business. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm so proud of her. That's
Yeah.
huge for her.
I gotta ask one thing. You mentioned that you get them if they come in late or anxious, and their first step is to get them to calm down, look at something pleasant in the room, realize that. What's the next step after they calm down?
Yeah, then we would just the idea is to get curious, so exploring if they're chronically late, exploring is this a all the time thing? Does it happen outside of the sessions all the time? And if it does, then we can kind of explore that. And if it's only happening in my session that they're chronically late, then that would tell me that, hey, maybe there's a rupture in our relationship. So maybe, I would think back to the last session, for example, like, and I would call it out too, because I work with a lot of people pleasers, which is also a safety state, fawning. And so I invite people to tell me that they're upset with me and work through it in our sessions, and then that way that can also be helpful outside the sessions in their relationships, for example.
You're basically making people look in the mirror, and sometimes that's scary for them. And I would imagine if they start to become late or come in late or cancel appointments, it's because they're do you notice that or is that like a possible reason that they are just not ready or not able to look in the mirror that you showed them, you know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I try to invite them to express how they're feeling towards me, and I sometimes it takes a little more time for them to feel safe with me before they can say, "Hey Ash, yeah, you said X, Y, and Z, and this is how I interpreted it, and I was not happy with you."
Has that actually happened?
I've had clients be upset with me for sure, but you know what? Those are actually the clients that at the end of our work together, I was like sad that like they were leaving and we had the best relationships after we worked through the rupture. Cause you know
That's
what they
great.
say, conflict can be intimacy enhancing if you can repair the relationship in an effective way. And so that's part of my job is giving people a new corrective emotional experience, giving their nervous system a new experience so they can build the capacity to have hard conversations with people and then have the lives that they want.
Nice. Terry, what do you think? Rapid fire?
Oh, I can't wait to see her.
Woo,
She's
here
gonna
we
she's
go.
gonna get the she's gonna get the big guns out from her arms, and she's gonna be like, she's gonna be ripping it.
Oh
All right,
man.
Ashley, this is the part of the show. This is the part of the show that, yeah, she is wearing a short
Yeah,
sleeve
but
shirt. So
this is the part of the show
you're
we
just going to go ahead and.
dysregulate you.
Oh man.
So we got 5 questions. The whole idea of rapid fire is to answer, quick and brief if you can. Um, and if you're ready, question number one. Are you
Great.
ready, Ashley? All
I'm
right.
ready. Let's hear
So,
it.
okay. So this is an interesting one. Is it built or is it regulated? In other words, do you build that confidence or is it something that is they already have, but it's clouded by a misunderstanding of themselves?
Yeah. So I actually love that question because I feel like people think that they need to be confident before they can go to the gym and start exercising or working out or before they can step into an identity. But really, confidence comes once you do a habit, once you go to the gym over and over and over and over again, then you can become confident that, you're an athlete or whatever it may be. So I think that behavior and action over and over again repeatedly builds confidence.
Good. Question number two. This is an about Ashley question. You ready,
Oh
doctor?
boy.
You spend obviously so much of time helping people regulate chaos. So off the clock,
Yeah.
what's something you do purely for you that has nothing to do with optimizing, improving, or working on yourself?
Oh man. So my family and I, we actually it's happening this weekend. We are doing a Spartan race together And so every year we do it to like relate, and we're a little competitive of a family though, so I don't know. We're gonna
Nice.
yeah. Yeah.
I
That
gotta
is
ask,
great.
I gotta ask, Sprint, Super, or Beast?
So this one, I don't even know which one this one is, but I think this year we're gonna do all of them.
So you're gonna do a
So I'm
trifecta
gonna
weekend?
yeah, yeah.
Damn.
That's the
Okay,
plan.
that's
Ashley's a
pretty cool.
beast, man. I didn't know that.
That's pretty
All
cool.
right. All right. I better be
Yeah.
nice. You might kick my ass. All right. Question number 3. Are we, and this is one Dr. Terry and I talk about with some of the generations of recent generations. Are we creating mentally weaker humans through all this comfort and convenience?
Oh man, I gotta plead the fourth on that one. This is a rapid
Fess up.
fire.
Come on.
I think that um what I see happen is that parents, they try to protect their kids from the world because they're anxious and they don't want to see their kids in pain. But what happens is if kids don't have tough experiences when they're kids and they go off to college and then they become adults and they don't know what to do and then they're really in trouble. And that's when you get the a lot of mental health symptoms as well because they feel so defeated because their parents always rescued them before. So I do think that going through your challenges when you're younger, you build resiliency for whenever you're older, an adult.
Love it.
Yeah.
Dr. Terry and I always talk about the participation trophy that that kids get these days. Come on.
Oh man.
All right.
Yeah.
You're gonna love this question. Question number 4. If we followed you around for a completely unfiltered day, what's something people would be surprised to learn about you that doesn't match the psychologist helping high performers image?
What's something that
You better
doesn't
tell the
matter?
truth because I know Robbie. Robbie's who told me about you. So
Oh my god. Yeah, what doesn't match? That's interesting because I am such a um I'm such a like organized, structured planner. Um, so what doesn't match? What's my guilty pleasure? How about that?
there you go.
Uh, what? I don't know. I think that is so tough. I really don't. I should have all these things, shouldn't I? I think honestly, at times I can work too much and burn myself out, and that's not. And then when I notice that, I got to practice what I preach and get myself back in check. How about that?
Fair enough. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. Are
Okay.
you ready? All
Yes.
right. What's one thing that every human, young and old, should do daily to have a better life?
Daily. I gotta say gratitude journaling has, like, changed my life.
Very
So,
nice.
every single morning, yeah, I write 3 things that I'm grateful for, I write my 3 intentions for the day, and I write who I wanna be that day, and, it primes your mind and sets you up for success. So,
All right. What are the 3 things you were grateful for today?
I wrote down I was grateful to be on this podcast and very excited to be on the podcast. Um, I I have a group that I go to at the Tower Club, and it's all business professionals, and we've got an event tonight. So I'm so grateful to have such wonderful people in my life that are always like motivating me and supporting me. And really, we do it together. So that's pleasant, really enjoyable as well. And then I love that I live so close to the beach, so I can walk there.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the mornings and see the sunrise, so yeah.
Oh, how great. Great way to end.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate you very much, Ashley, for being on the show today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for having me. It was a pleasure.
It is awesome.
See ya.